All right, I'm going to try this again. This is hard to see. I don't know if this is better than the picture view versus landscape view, whatever, portrait view. Anyway, this is my house. I'm giving a tour of what I wish I had done, woulda, coulda, shoulda. This is my beam that separates, or I should say holds these two rooms together where there was a wall. And this is what I wish I had done. And about a month ago, today is June 7, 2025. It's 6 p.m. So lighting isn't great because we just had a storm, but I have the overhead lights on and it shows what it is like in the evening and how much light there is in this side. And there's a ton more on the other side when it's daylight. But what I was thinking the other night when I was going through, I don't even remember, I was probably sorting something, and I was thinking about what I have done to the house and reminiscing about when I used to daydream about having done, daydream about doing the renovations. Before 2020, when I actually got to do them, I was thinking about what I might have done if I had been able to swap living space for bedroom space, because this living space is nice and open and airy and whatever else, but I was trying to make the flow of the house good, and it's much better than it was, but I was thinking about how it might have been better, how I could have done it, and could I still have done it in a similar budget and swapped living space with bedroom space the way it is, the way I wished I could have done it, which is because the sunlight on this side of the house doesn't ever come into these windows directly, even at the peak of the summer, and never gets direct sunlight in here. And that's fine for bedrooms, but I love sunlight in the living spaces. And in the wintertime, it's really, really hard to be in the living spaces in here without feeling extremely dreary. And I don't spend time in the bedrooms because they're small and I don't do anything in there. I don't have living space in there. So what I wish I had done is what I came up with. It took me like hours of daydreaming. My creative juices were flowing. And so what I came up with, and I used my measuring tape and like totally planned it all out in my head and couldn't sleep because it was just the flow. So it would have been where I, first of all, would have not done, I would have removed this doorway and placed it in what would have become the living space, which is right on the other side of this wall. And I would have made this window a shorter window like there currently are in the bedrooms, 1 or 2 right here, so that from the porch, even though you enter the house over on the other side of this wall, you can only see into the bedrooms barely a little bit. I know that the benefit of the bedrooms now is that you can't really put your head and look in directly unless you're crawling into the flower beds. But yeah. Anyway, using the skeleton of the space, one of the woulda, shoulda, couldas is to remove this door, put in small window here for the bedroom. It's just so that it removes the amount of or maintains some privacy in this bedroom. For finance's sake, I probably would have left this one and this one the length that they are. I definitely would have still added that window like I did, and this would have become 2 bedrooms that are similar, if not bigger in size than what the bedrooms currently are, even with what I'm about to say, which is that down here I would have put a small hallway that was only the size of one door that opens that way to that bedroom. And I can't remember if I decided the best, because this was a month ago. I was going to do this video the next morning, but I ended up busy since then. So I don't remember if I would have had the door go this way, I think is what it would have been. Or potentially left that entire wall from the doorway on both sides be just a little wall and then door that opens this way. But I measured the closets, and even if they are the width of whatever a doorway space would have to be for this hallway, it still leaves more closet space in here than there currently is in the big bedroom or the other 2 bedrooms. And it allows this space to be more square and usable than the current blue room. It allows this space to be bigger than the current green room because the bathroom takes up part of it, and even with a closet in here, because that doorway would never have been put in, and it would have still been a solid wall here. That doorway would never have been put in there. And this one, the doorway was right where the fridge is now. That one would have been closed off, and this would have been, I would have moved that to the other side of the bathroom. It would have been what I meant was I would have moved the air conditioning to the other side of the bathroom, and it wouldn't have been a big deal to move it up that wall instead, and moved the return vent to the other side as well. Would not have been a problem. They rebuilt this thing anyway, so anyway, so this would have been a closet like right where Nala is, like the door would have opened that way, and then a wall right here for the closet, and then of course sliding doors or something here. And that still would have left a fairly decent sized bedroom here with, it would actually have been bigger because I think the rooms are identical in size, but the size of the closet that I put here would have been bigger than what I currently have in there, combined space, and it would have been all in one, and it would have gone all the way up to the ceiling, which would have been better than the closets that I've got in the green room right now, and much more storage space in there. And it would have allowed, so you'd have closet and bathroom between living space. In this space you would have closet, and then on the other side of that wall would have been the entryway and a television, so you wouldn't really be able to hear the bedroom. In here there would not have been this space at all, because this would be little bitty hallway, and then this wall here, if that was a wall, it would either be where the door is or it would be a wall, and on the other side of that would just be a wall, and this whole area would be wide open. And then this area would only be the width of the bathroom, which stops about the middle of that painting, and then that part of the, is that right? No, it stops just the other side of that trim, and then that would be the wall to the bedroom, sorry, to the bathroom. So you would walk in the front door of the house actually inside this closet. It would be, I think I measured, and it would have, the front door trim would come out to about right there, and then it would open that way, and then there would be just enough space between there and the end of this wall for the television on the same smart furniture that it's on now. And then the drop down for the attic, I would have put the other direction, and it would have dropped down and had a stairwell that comes down this way, and then drops back up, and it still would have cleared the smart furniture and come to basically land at the bottom right in front of the front door, and would have been totally fine. The front door could be wide open, and you could go from the front door wide open off the porch. I measured that too on the outside, and the porch, you would come up into the porch, which you can see here throughout the window. It would go, see the railing. So you would come up the ramp on the porch. You'd come up the ramp, and then you'd turn right and immediately come into the front door. The other door, obviously the rest of the porch would be, you know, just porch and windows into the bedroom. And then of course this would be a living room, and you could see out. So you'd have over on this wall, I'd even measured the smart furniture and decided which pieces I would put up there, and I would have like one piece of smart furniture here and one piece of smart furniture in the corner there. Or maybe I had two over there, but I think I just had the one. And then I don't even think I had one over here. I would have put a couch here, and either chosen to put new longer windows here so that they matched here, or I would have just put a couch under here and not worried about it, because there's so much sun in the daylight, even in the wintertime. It comes right through. So I measured all of it, and it would have been perfect to have this room be the living room that you enter, where, like I said, door, and then TV area with the smart furniture here, drop down from the attic. This wall wouldn't even be here because it wouldn't have needed to be, but in its place would have been, why do I always get vocal fry when I do this? Would have been, so currently I've got this wall situation going on because of the closet, which obviously would not be there. And this wall would not be here either because it would stop there, and then you'd go that direction into the bedrooms, and this wall wouldn't be there, but it would continue into what is now the hallway, and then all the way into, because I would have taken down the load-bearing wall here and done a beam just like I did in there. I would have just done it on this side instead. So when I measured all this out, what would have ended up happening is I would have had couch here. I would have still put my white 4x4 with the countertop furniture in the middle, and then I would put the tall one here in front of this window or something. Like I probably would have put the short one there and the tall one in the middle. I had it all figured out. Literally, like I had all the furniture exactly placed, and I'm kind of frustrated I didn't make that video then, but I still could have had my hanging baskets with the plants. Like everything was going to be set up perfectly, and the rugs, all of it. So I would have had, like I said, load-bearing beam, just like it is in the current room right there. It would have been on this side instead. And then, like, again, this would have been torn out. It would have been load-bearing from right here is where the beam would have started, because this whole wall would have gone out. And this wall would have stayed. I don't know if you can see it up there. Whoops. Hi. The beam would have started right here, where this wall is now a corner, and what's behind it was a closet when I bought the house, and would have stayed with the same door situation, maybe even smaller. I might have reframed it into a slightly smaller door, but right where the mirror is where the door used to be, and that would have been the bathroom the way it is now, just literally reversed. So the sink is on this side, but it would have been on the opposite side. The toilet would have stayed there, the shower would have stayed there, or vice versa. I could have put the shower on this end and the toilet on that end. It really wouldn't have mattered. I probably still would have put the shower over there because that's where draining needs to happen and drains downhill, whatever, anyway. Maybe it would have been better the other way. I don't know. I would have asked a plumber to see which one is best, but then I would have had the return for the air conditioning right here, the controls right here. This was a hallway, and it would have stayed that way. When I first moved in, it was a hallway. Eventually I got a door there, but it was not even framed in. So I would have bumped out the doorway a little bit farther. I was going to put this transom literally right above there, because that's from my old house in the other part of St. Elmo, and I would have put it up there so that it could louver out and still be a visual to see the sunlight from the back door. And in back here is access to the bathroom, and I'll go in there and explain that too. So, but then I would have had refrigerator. I think the way I played this out, and I was over here that night figuring this out, and I had measured it like 1.5 billion times. So I'm not sure why it's not. Nope. Hi. There. So I would have had refrigerator in a recess right here that goes, so it would have been flush with the counters. So it would have been recessed into the wall a little bit. And behind there, I would have had to push, in order to do that, I would have had to push the tub from where it is, which is right there, over, which is fine. And I don't know why I didn't do that anyway. Because then I could have had closet spaces be bigger, but whatever, it is what it is. It was just kind of frustrating. Anyway, it would have been so much better on so many levels. So in here I would have had refrigerator, and then I think I figured there was a tiny space of countertop between the two, maybe. But Then I had a stove here that would open out. And then, I think that's right. Yeah. Stove in here, a little corner cabinet that's underneath that you can't really access much of. And then a kitchen sink, the same kitchen sink that I did end up using would have been here, centered under this, and then dishwasher on this end. And then a little corner that's empty before the beam that would have been here. And that corner space would have been where I had, you know, the trash can, and then, you know, hanging, what's it called? Mop and kitchen stuff. And I don't think I would have had a pantry, same way I don't have a pantry now. Oh, and then I would have had the island, which goes the opposite direction the way it does now. So the island would have been, well, I guess it's not opposite really. It's long ways this way, and what I looked at was how would I get dining table instead of having dining table the way I do now, where the dining table is up against it, because the space would have been the long skinny way this way for the island, in order to make space for a decent amount of a hallway through here to the back door and passage to the bathroom, and the bathroom door opening out. I guess it could open in. It wouldn't need to open out. I don't know what I'm talking about. Anyway, so the passage space, you know, the island going the long way this way, or even the short way, so the long way this way, I still wouldn't have a whole lot of room for a table. So what I thought was, I probably wouldn't have bought the table that I have now. I would have had those IKEA tables that have the little drawers underneath them, like one of my friends has. They flop down with two sides of drop leaves, but in the center of them they have all these drawers, which would have been perfect for linens and spices and whatever else, dishes probably, silverware, whatever. Anyway, so that would be extra prep space if it needed to flop up, but also you could pull it out and move it into what is currently a wall, but would have been a wide open space like it is now in the other room. There would have been the beam over here and the living space there, so you'd have a table that could flop right into it. But you're standing over here at the kitchen sink, and you can look across the way, and there's the TV right there. This doorway doesn't exist. You're at the refrigerator. You can still see the TV. You can see the people that are sitting on the couch. You can say hi to the person who's sitting in the chair. And then down this hallway is directly the back door, but also there's a door immediately to the left of the hallway, which goes into the back bedroom. So front bedroom access here, second bedroom access here, third bedroom walk through the kitchen toward the back hall, and out the back hall you have access to the bedroom, and then right behind it is the closet to that bedroom, which makes up the rest of the hallway, which will go all the way back to the original door that I probably would have replaced with glass. And then on the other side of the hallway is the bathroom that would have opened in the way it used to, instead of the way it is now, so that you have accessibility, which I'm about to go show you. So like I said, I measured this out a million times that night, and again, wish I had done this video then, but also, why is nothing focusing? So this current setup here is, you can see it on the floor here, is where the wall used to be, and it would stop right there. But I would have extended that wall all the way to the back door, so that you would walk into the door and there would be a wall alongside here all the way, and it stops right about the edge of where this thing is. And then so you would have a door here that swings that way. Actually, no, I lied. It wouldn't stop there. It would keep going, because this is currently a wall to a closet on the other side, but that would be hallway here and doorway back there inside, and it would swing in, and this currently would be the edge. It would swing in, and then you'd also have a wall here that would be the side of, so let's look at it from this side. So right here, the doorway would open inside that closet like that. and then this wall wouldn't be there. And that would be not a doorway, it would be a wall. And so you'd have this whole wall area that I also looked at, like, what would I put there? And I had all the bookshelves would be in here. It would be amazing for fabric and everything else. Anyway, so the wall for the closet, you'd open up the door inside the closet where the closet currently is, and this wall would actually be the wall for, close enough anyway, for the closet. So the closet space in here would be about, it would stop like about here, and it would take up, so like if you look on the floor, that would be the back of the wall of the closet all the way across, and the closet would stop about right there and go all the way across, and there would be a huge amount of space in here that goes all the way up to the ceiling, but it would be wider than there currently is. So much more closet space, so much more functional than I've got now. Probably would have it with sliding doors just so it doesn't impede in the very small space in here. And then this room, though it seems like it's dark in here already, which it is, it would be dark, but it would be not really much darker than it is now. And when you open that bedroom door past the closet, you're seeing, if you opened that door and left it open, you would see through the hallway door to the kitchen, and you could see out the front windows. Instead of being able to see out this bathroom window, you could see just a little sliver of the side windows of the kitchen, and potentially even past the beam to the living room couch. And then when you need to use a bathroom, you go out, you would open this door and go out the hallway, across the hallway, and then come down a little bit to this door, which would actually have opened in this way. And I still would have done the bathroom not the same at all. In fact, very different. This is the part that's really interesting. So I spent a lot of time in here the other night, a month ago as well, because where the shower is now would have been pushed down to take up and be ending on that space, and I would have put the shower head on this wall. I had reasons for that the other night, and it was probably, no, maybe I wouldn't. I lied, because the shower head is on that wall now. I would have put it on this wall so that you still have access to it from the inside of what would have become a closet, and I measured the depth of what I would need from the refrigerator being bumped out, plus the extra space for an actual 6-inch wall. I don't even think walls are 6 inches, but let's pretend they are. And then I still would have had tons of space from the ceiling to the floor for a linen closet, and still had as much space inside the bathroom as I do now. So again, found space everywhere with this floor plan that I wish I had done. It would have probably cost me more to change windows in the door on the front of the house, but I don't know if it really would have cost much more than I did. So what I would have done is had a closet space that had from floor to ceiling, and I would have had a access that is accessible to the shower head at the top and tub stuff at the bottom, because it all would have been this way. So I just would have had a different facing of a tub and the drain, and I would have put laundry stuff at the bottom, had these shelves at the top, doors, maybe even cabinet door type things, so that it could have been, I think I probably would have made it with two. I can't remember how I had it figured out, where there wasn't a door that actually opens into the thing. It would have maybe a curtain or something, some way of cabinet doorsy sort of situation where it doesn't run into this. I had it all figured out, and it was like the plan. And I even down to started daydreaming about, and had to go to bed about fixtures and handles and stuff like that. So the door would have opened this way, so that when it's opened all the way, it runs into the ceiling, because the ceiling has a slant there, and they flattened off the ceiling from here. I don't know why, but it's fine with me, because then I had less to worry about. So once it's the door is open, behind the door, you would have, I think I figured out that I would put the heater fits here, the toilet would have fit here, and then I would have put the sink where it actually had originally been, because originally the sink was here and the toilet was next to it. So I would have just moved the toilet over to where the washer and dryer had already been. The washer had been, and then I would have put plumbing, changed the plumbing. I already had to change the plumbing anyway, but I would have kept the sink plumbing there. I mean, it would have been replaced with brand new stuff like it is, but the flooring would have that would not have been there because that's not where it was originally. Maybe it was. Maybe that never moved. Anyway, that could have stayed because the sink would have been from the wall to here or even out here. And I could have put a double sink there. But I think what I figured was it would be better to have an accessibility thing where you can put a wheelchair in here and still have, so there wouldn't have been anything underneath the window. I would have put towel bars there and either a chair for sitting or a, I don't remember what I was going to put there. Something like shelves or plants or something. Something was going to be there that was really cute, but doesn't take up room space because you could totally put accessibility so you could have the wheelchair come in and still could access the sink if they wanted to replace it with an accessibility sink, or just it would still be close enough to go. And then, of course, you have a space between the two. And I even decided that I would put these things, I would have hung, because the shower would be there, I would have hung them over on this wall for plants. And I think I might have put this in between the toilet or something else. Like I had it all figured out, like what was going to go where, so that you wouldn't be cluttered in here and it still would have had the same feel. There would have been a sink with a mirror. Or even if I had put the sink across here, I can't remember if I was planning on doing that, but I think I wasn't. I think I still preferred the sink to be this direction, not this direction. And then there could have been a mirror here, but I wasn't wanting the mirror to be opposite the shower, because if you're taking a shower and you open the curtain and so everybody outside can see you in the mirror, that's not a good thing. So I think I had it set up to where the sink would be here or maybe even there. And then you can look in the mirror here, but you still are opposite the toilet in a way that isn't bad. And then underneath the window, you're getting daylight, natural light to look in and get your makeup on, but you're not directly underneath the light, so you still have the... Anyway, I had it all figured out. There was going to be a cute little chair here, and the sink would have been there, and it still would have... Whatever. Anyway, I probably would have used a different sink than those two, but that would have been the bathroom. I think what I had planned was curtains, but not permanent curtains. Curtains that drop down, and I wouldn't have had to have that light there because that's not where makeup would have been done. It would have been over here. So I could have a different fixture over the sink wherever it was, probably here, I think is where I said I was going to do it the same way. But then I would have had an option for curtains that can close from the ceiling dropping down, or blinds or something, so that you can shower in peace but still have the plants in the window and still have a table below it with plants on it, I think is what I had planned. But then, you know, where all this is would have been in the shower. And it would have stopped, you know, here. And then, like I said, that really cool cabinet inset closet that would not be as the depth of the shower. It would have been the depth of, let's see, it would have been the depth. It doesn't need to be that depth. That's inefficient use of space to have it so deep in a bathroom, because nobody uses what's on the back. It's way too deep. So this wall would have come down to about, I can't remember how deep it was, but I measured it. It would have come down to about right here, and then you'd still have all this space for shelves and cabinets, and on this wall that would be the back side, I would have had access to behind the shelving so easily to remove shelving that you could, and I spent, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes figuring out the ideal situation for how you would have that accessible to the water areas behind there. Like have a panel that you could remove and access all of that very easily, which I don't have now because it's literally just behind the drywall and you have to knock out the drywall to get to it. So I would have made it more accessible. It would have been wiser to have all that done that way. The light switch would have been, I don't remember where, I think it was always here. Even though you still had to open the door, it was here, which is really stupid. But I would have had it over there because I wouldn't have had a shower in there. So it wouldn't have mattered. And then the hallway in the back, again, you'd have the refrigerator that kind of recesses back, but you'd still have either a post in the center to, then the refrigerator kind of goes around it or goes into that space and there would just be a cubby there, or the wall just extends all the way and you have to deal with trim, which I wouldn't have wanted to do. But the transom up at the top back there, at the tippy top, would be awesome, because the amount of space that the transom takes up would be like right where that light is now would be the transom. And you can see that the level of the, like, so the transom would have come down to about that same level, and then the door, you know, the hallway stops. So like it would have just opened up the space in here to where if you're walking in the back door, which I still would have tried to change to have a glass back door here, but I wouldn't have had to, because it would have been a hallway. Nobody gives a crap. There's nothing back here in a hallway that's a problem. I could have left the door the way it is and it would have been fine, because it would have been secure for this back bedroom to not be close to the, there wouldn't, I don't know. I figured it all out, because this was like, the space that's here in here felt lost to me if it was a hallway. I don't like hallways, but I already put a hallway in between the bedrooms this past, the current way it's set up. And I felt like I lost bedroom space in the blue room. And like I said, this bathroom would have just been opposite the way it is, to where the door would have stayed where it was. The sink would be where I'm looking, where the doorway is now. And I still would have used a similar sink and either left the shower on this side. Again, that bedroom over here, which you wouldn't have been able to access through this door, you just literally go out. You go out the door that I said you could see through to the kitchen if you open the door, and then go around the corner and you're in the bathroom. Or literally go across the hallway and you're in this bathroom. So this bedroom has the most access, even though it's short and small square footage. It would have been a bedroom with a full closet, or an office with a full closet, which I would have loved to still have. I mean, you still could have what you have now, because the closet would have taken up space to about, honestly, it would have taken up space to about the edge of this thing. So like the depth of the closet, maybe the middle of that thing. So it wouldn't have come to the full length of this. There still would have been space. So like right there would have been the edge of the closet. And then you'd still have all this space for a bed, this wall of fabric that was going to be this entire wall. The door comes wide open right here. Behind that, stops right there. And you come in this way and you've got so much space in here for crafts, and like you still could have a single bed, or take out the desk and the crafts and you've got plenty of space for a double bed, a queen bed even. Ruth lived back here with a queen bed and my shelves. So it totally could have been like queen bed under the window, nightstand to nightstand with no shelves along the side, and a big, huge closet. So you could have had a much more comfortable space in here, a much more usable space. The laundry would still be on the back porch. You'd have laundry catching, like laundry baskets inside that bathroom. And the use of this small bathroom would have been, like, I would have done all the things I intended to do with, like, shelves and stuff on the closet, or on the walls up here, so that space wasn't wasted. And I don't know if it's better to have a shower on this end. The house kind of leans this direction, so probably not, because then it feels like the shower's attacking you. Maybe the shower's still better on this end, but I definitely would have done the shower differently, because it wouldn't have had the problems that it has now, because I would have been smart in my fantasy world. And I wouldn't have had them do the stupid thing that they did in here, which I'll explain in a different video, but I wanted to go through this because I wanted to capture my idea. I still would have used this sink, still would have reused the dishwasher and the stove, and I measured all those, and I still would have ended up with a cabinet similar to this and a cabinet similar to this, and I just would have had different corner stuff. That would have been slightly bigger, and it wouldn't have been accessible because the stove would have come out to it, so it would have been like, I think the space in the other room where it would have been, this corner bit would have been slightly longer and pushed the sink to start about here, which is at the edge of the set of windows. So like it would have been corner cabinet that you wouldn't have seen, which is normal, and then under sink cabinet, and then dishwasher, or I could have just put another cabinet under there, and then you'd have like underneath the sink, you'd go into the cabinet underneath there. And then, you know, all of the stove still would have been there. And then I figured that it would be the opposite of way the stove is set up right now. So what I would have done in the kitchen would have been, I would have done these exact same, almost identical, I measured them, almost identical widths of these would have been, plus the refrigerator. So you'd have hallway, transom, refrigerator up here, and I would have done shelves to the corner, and then they would have stopped in the corner, so there's no space for that. The other two little bitties would have been here, and then the beam. And then underneath that you'd have refrigerator, little space, stove, corner cabinet. And I measured all that out, and it barely fits, but it fits. And it even fits with not a whole lot of trim here, but literally just a wall there. Like just the width of a wall there. With no trim or anything for the fridge to slide into. And then I probably would have made it so that it wouldn't have actually had trim over this because it's a hallway, not an actual door. So it would have just been smooth and then had the transom up there. Or maybe even used beam or 2x4s to make that space there look like something above here all the way to there with like hallway to actual 2x4s like the shelves are made out of, all the way across, and then continuing with 2x4s that stick out into the wall. I don't know, something like that. So that's my vision for, and because it's a kitchen, I wouldn't have had need to replace these either, because I just have a kitchen sink here that's wider than this current setup here. So like the kitchen sink, I think, takes up like this much space, something like that. So like this, even if I centered it, there's counter space here, but then sink and then dishwasher, whatever. I figured it all out, what would be best. And it would have been awesome with a beam and the wide open space here to be able to see through to all this extra space where there is nothing here into this space over here. And then from over here, you're looking at all this. The beams, it would have been awesome. Anyway, I am done because my dog is barking. But that's my woulda, coulda, shoulda.